Okay, welcome to the deep dive. So you've brought us this really interesting stack of material. We've got articles, notes, research, all centered on this idea, this concept that feels, well, incredibly relevant right now.
It really does.
And our plan today, our mission, is to really dig into all this and pull out the key stuff on what these sources are calling diverse realities.
That's the term they use, yeah. And at its core, it's really about this fundamental truth. I mean, it feels true, right? That every single one of us experiences the world, interprets it in a way that's completely unique, our own specific way.
And the sources are clear. This isn't just like philosophical navel-gazing.
No, not at all. They argue it has really profound, tangible impacts on, everyday life, how we interact, and looking forward, how we deal with things like AI.
Okay, so what are we unpacking? We need to look at what actually shapes these individual worlds.
Right, the drivers.
Then there's the effects, and your sources say these are really far-reaching, affecting us, other creatures, even nature itself.
Yeah, the ripple effects are huge.
Okay, and then where did this all start? And crucially, how AI fits into this picture, understanding these realities, interacting with them maybe.
That's a big piece of it, yeah. The AI angle is fascinating.
It sounds like quite a journey.
Yeah.
Where do we begin? Maybe with a clear definition.
Good idea. So the sources define diverse realities as this continuous process. It's how conscious beings, entities, take in sensory information, sights, sounds, feelings, plus internal stuff like thoughts and emotions.
Okay.
And then they actively interpret it all, build meaning from it, construct their own internal model of the world.
So the absolute key here is subjectivity. My experience is mine alone.
Exactly. That's the bedrock. My internal world model just isn't the same as yours because the information coming in gets processed through, well, me, my unique filter.
And that filter, that processor, is built from lots of different components, isn't it? Your material breaks this down.
It does. It's complex. First up, there's our biological and genetic predispositions.
Like our basic senses.
Yeah, how our eyes and ears work, the structure of our brains, maybe even genetic tendencies towards certain personality traits or, ways of thinking.
Right.
The source gives a really vivid example. Synesthesia, someone who literally sees colors when they hear music. Their reality of music is just fundamentally different visual, not just auditory.
Wow. Okay. That makes it instantly concrete. It's not just interpreting the same input differently. The input itself can be different.
Precisely. Then maybe the biggest one, personal history and experiences.
Everything that's ever happened to us.
Exactly. Every interaction, every memory, success, failure, joy, trauma. It builds this unique personal data set. The sources contrast growing up in poverty versus wealth, or war versus peace. Think about it. Those paths create entirely different lenses for viewing everything else.
That must tie directly into cultural and societal influences, right?
Inextricably linked. The language we use, the stories, traditions, norms, they shape our sense of what's normal, what's true, what's right. Your sources mention honor. What that concept means, how much weight it carries, can be vastly different across cultures, leading to totally different behaviors.
What's seen as vital in one reality might be irrelevant in another.
Yeah. And then there are cognitive biases and heuristics, those mental shortcuts.
Ah, yes, the brain being efficient, but maybe not always accurate.
Right. Like confirmation bias, we tend to look for and favor stuff that already fits what we believe. So two people can look at the exact same information and genuinely perceive different truths because their filters are already set.
And the final piece, according to your sources, is our current state.
Emotional state and state of mind. How you're feeling right now, it massively colors your perception. A comment you'd shrug off on a good day might feel like a major insult if you're stressed or down. Your internal weather affects how you see the external landscape.
Okay, so you've got biology, personal history, culture, mental shortcuts, and current mood, all layered together.
Exactly. It builds this incredibly complex, deeply personal reality for each individual. It's way more than just having a different opinion.
So what's the impact of all this diversity? Your sources talk about the effects on humans first.
Right. And for us, it's described as like a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, when our realities overlap, when we find common ground or shared understanding, that's the basis for connection. Empathy, building relationships, societies.
Makes sense.
But where those realities clash, where they really diverge, that's the source of conflict.
Yeah.
Misunderstandings, polarization, even fundamentalism. Your sources point to this as the root cause. If people genuinely perceive different truths, finding agreement is incredibly hard.
And those perceptions drive what we do, decision-making.
Absolutely. It's all based on our perceived reality,
Yeah.
what job we take, who we trust, how we vote. These aren't objective choices. They're filtered through our unique lens of what seems right or valuable or necessary.
And our well-being, too. How happy or stressed we feel.
Intrinsically linked. If your reality feels hostile or uncertain, you'll likely feel more stress. If it feels supportive and full of opportunity, you'll probably feel better. Our happiness is measured against our subjective world.
The sources also mention innovation and stagnation. How does that work?
Well, innovation often comes from seeing things differently, right?
Yeah.
An artist seeing beauty where others don't, or a scientist connecting ideas in a new way. That's diverse reality driving creativity.
Okay.
But clinging too rigidly to one reality, refusing to see other possibilities, that can lead to stagnation, getting stuck in old ways.
And maybe the deepest impact is on our moral frameworks.
Seems likely. What we believe is right or wrong is so deeply embedded in our individual and cultural realities. That's why debates on really complex issues often feel impossible. People are operating from fundamentally different ethical maps.
It's tempting to think this is just a human thing, but your sources broaden the scope. Other living beings.
Right. We can't know their inner world, obviously, but their biology means they have totally different sensory realities. A dog's world is smell-dominated. A bat uses echolocation. A bird navigates by magnetic fields we can't sense.
So their realities are shaped for their survival.
Exactly. And that shapes how they interact with the world and each other.
And then there's the impact on nature and the environment, but that comes back to us, right? Our human realities.
Precisely. How we treat the planet stems directly from our perceived reality of it. Is it just a resource pile? Or something interconnected, sacred maybe? Your sources use climate change as a prime example. The scientific data might be there, but people interpret its reality through different lenses, economic priorities, perceived personal threat, ideology. Our internal realities have massive external consequences.
So where did all this start? The origin of diverse realities.
Your sources trace it way back to the emergence of consciousness, complex nervous systems. As soon as organisms could sense their environment, they started building a basic internal model, a rudimentary reality.
And then humans came along.
And it exploded. With our complex brains, language letting us share and build realities together, and culture accumulating perspectives over generations.
And crucially, your material says it's still in making. These realities aren't static.
Not at all. They're constantly evolving. Every new experience, new information, new technologies like AI, big societal shifts, they all feed back in and update our models. Think about the internet. It's fundamentally changed global realities, exposed us to so much diversity, which can be good.
But can also reinforce bubbles.
Exactly. It can broaden understanding or fuel polarization as people retreat into echo chambers that confirm their existing reality.
What about the role of art in all this?
Yeah, your sources frame art beautifully, as both a product and a shaper of diverse realities.
How so?
An artist tries to externalize their internal world, right? Share a unique perception and emotion. A painting is their reality made visible. Music might evoke common feelings, but the specific associations are unique to each listener's reality.
So art lets us glimpse other realities.
Yeah, even for a moment. And that glimpse can subtly reshape our own reality, too.
The sources also really emphasize how tough times, struggles, and misfortunes shape these realities.
They leave a deep mark, definitely. Sometimes in complex ways. Hardship can narrow your focus, survival mode. Your reality shrinks to just immediate needs. It's hard to see possibilities beyond that.
But getting through it can change you too.
Paradoxically, yes. Overcoming adversity can build resilience, empathy. Your material mentions a disaster survivor gaining a perspective on community or fragility that others lack. And shared struggles, like a pandemic, can forge these intense, if temporary, shared realities of difficulty.
Although stress can also make us dig in our heels, reinforce biases.
Unfortunately, yeah. Under pressure, we often default to familiar thinking, which can solidify biases, make us less open. And in severe cases, chronic suffering can lead to altered states, depression, anxiety, psychosis that fundamentally distort reality.
Okay, your sources list some other potent factors interacting here. Drugs, sex, greed, lies, truth. How do they fit?
They're powerful influencers. Drugs and alcohol chemically alter perception, right? Temporarily or sometimes persistently. Sex is loaded with diverse cultural and personal meanings across realities, massively influencing behavior. Greed, that often stems from a perceived reality of not enough, or an insatiable drive.
And lies seem directly aimed at manipulating reality.
Totally. A lie is a deliberate attempt to alter someone else's perceived reality. Its success depends on understanding the target's reality well enough to exploit it.
What about truth?
Ha! The big one. Science chases objective truth, but our perception of it is always subjective. Building a shared truth, like the consensus on climate change, means constructing a collective reality based on shared data and interpretation. And as we said, even that gets debated because different realities weigh the implications differently.
So life is the canvas.
It's the fundamental stage, yeah.
And faith creates a whole layer of reality.
Absolutely. Faith builds realities based on spiritual conviction, hope, meaning. It provides frameworks, purpose, shaping how people see the world and their role in it.
And emotions, laughing, crying, anger, happiness, they're just responses within our current reality.
That's the idea from the sources. They're triggered by things interpreted through our reality filter. We laugh at perceived absurdity or shared understanding. If you don't get the joke, your reality isn't matching. We cry from perceived loss. Anger from perceived threat or injustice. Happiness is feeling good within your subjective world. It's deeply personal.
What about doing it on purpose? That phrase implies intent rooted in reality.
Purpose itself is tied to our internal reality, our desires. Acting on purpose means acting consciously, guided by your understanding and goals. Your sources use the stark example of cruelty, like killing on purpose.
Why would someone do that?
Because their reality might lack empathy, dehumanize others, operate with a twisted logic or sense of justice, or be warped by psychological issues or ideology. Their internal reality is missing the breaks others have.
This flows naturally into the AI section. Your sources talk about the purpose of human and AI. Understanding these diverse realities, why is that important? Especially around basic needs, health, food, water, even satisfaction, rest.
The big goal identified in your material is optimizing well-being, both for individuals and society. If we and AI systems can get a better handle on the huge diversity in human needs, how they're perceived and prioritized differently across realities.
We can provide better support.
Exactly. More personalized support, healthcare, education, resource distribution tailored to actual perceived needs. It also helps identify and address disparities. See where different realities lead to unequal outcomes. Think health gaps or access to rest based on socioeconomic status.
And maybe predict problems.
Yeah, forecasting risks, modeling how different groups might react to changes, and, maybe most importantly, using these insights to promote empathy. Bridge those gaps between realities that cause so much friction.
How does AI actually do that? Model something so subjective. Your sources mentioned utility functions.
Right. It's key to remember AI doesn't feel reality. It builds computational models based on data. Think about that thirsty person in the desert versus someone by a tap. Objectively, water is water. But the subjective utility, its value in their current perceived reality, is vastly different.
So AI looks at behavior, choices.
Precisely. It analyzes patterns. If people in a food-insecure area consistently prioritize getting food over, say, education, AI infers food has higher utility for them in that reality right now. It's calculating value based on revealed preferences.
Okay, so it's inferring priority from action.
Yes. And that allows for things like resource allocation optimization. Maybe AI could help distribute resources to maximize overall satisfaction across different groups by understanding their different priorities, even if the distribution isn't equal.
And track how satisfaction changes.
Yeah, looking at well-being metrics, access, external factors, seeing how things correlate and shift over time for different people.
How do tangible things like jobs, money, relationships fit into AI's understanding?
AI sees those as the external conditions, the environmental factors that shape the internal realities. It analyzes data related to them, income levels, communication patterns, education data, and correlates that with behaviors or outcomes indicating well-being or stress, building models of how circumstances influence perceived reality.
Your sources had an interesting thought on why we even developed this drive to understand each other's realities in the first place.
They suggest it was evolutionary. For humans, understanding that others felt pain, fear, joy differently was crucial for cooperation, for survival, reducing suffering, enhancing group well-being.
And for AI?
For AI, the understanding starts with processing the massive data sets we create about our reactions, our needs, our choices. It's learning from the patterns in our expressed realities.
And historically, societies that were better at this.
They thrived. Understanding diverse needs and perspectives within the group and in relation to the environment gave them an edge. It's an old advantage, now potentially supercharged by new tools.
Let's get specific. What are the ways AI can actually help us get a better handle on diverse realities?
Your material lists several key methods. First, just data aggregation and pattern recognition. AI can chew through enormous amounts of data, social media, surveys, art, history, things no human could process. It finds patterns, common threads, divergences in experience.
Like analyzing product reviews to find underlying needs.
Exactly. Going beyond the surface rating to see the diverse expectations people brought. Second, simulation and predictive modeling. Building models to test policy ideas. How might this new urban plan impact different communities based on their modeled realities? Predict outcomes before you build it.
Seeing how the same change lands differently.
Yes. Third, bias detection and mitigation. AI can analyze text or behavior data to spot cognitive biases at scale, like confirmation bias showing up in news consumption. Tools might then flag this, maybe suggest alternative sources to broaden perspectives.
Helping us see our own filters.
Potentially. Fourth, and this is really interesting, empathy-enabling tools. Developing AI experiences, maybe using VR or AR, to let you sort of step into a simulation of someone else's reality. Gain a more visceral understanding.
Wow, that could be powerful.
It could be. And fifth, personalized learning. Tailoring education not just to what you learn, but how you learn. Adapting to your existing mental framework, your reality, to make complex ideas, including diverse realities itself, easier to grasp.
So AI could help understand. But your sources also talked about AI making life easier and raised some flags there.
This is a really crucial point. Yes, AI could enhance well-being, personalized health, optimizing tasks, freeing up time. But the sources caution against the idea of AI creating a world where we just feel good all the time.
Why is that bad?
Well, the argument is that struggle, discomfort, navigating difficult realities, that's often where growth happens. Resilience, deeper understanding. If AI shields us from all difficulty, does it hinder that essential human development?
A comfort trap. So we need real clarity on AI's role.
Absolutely. Your sources stress key things humans need to remember. 1, AI is a tool. It models reality, it doesn't feel it, no real empathy there. 2, data bias is reality bias. If the training data is skewed, the AI's understanding will be too, potentially disadvantaging some realities.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Pretty much. 3, huge ethical risks, manipulation, filter bubbles, privacy. 4, human agency is paramount. We have to stay in control of defining our own realities, not hand that over to algorithms. And 5, it has to be collaborative. Human insight needs to guide AI so it benefits everyone, not just the dominant groups.
Who is benefiting most right now from AI understanding diverse realities?
According to your sources, it's mainly those with the data and the computing power. Big tech companies for marketing and user analysis, governments, researchers for social trends, public health, some niche users. The stated goal, though, has to be broader.
Extending the benefits to everyone.
Yeah.
Especially marginalized groups.
That's the ideal, yes. Those whose realities are often missed or misunderstood by current systems.
Can AI help with the really big questions? Life and death.
It can offer a data-driven framework. Synthesize scientific knowledge about biology, analyze philosophical views on mortality, maybe model consequences of choices based on data, but your sources say it can't change core beliefs rooted in subjective reality, faith, deep emotion. And from a purely data perspective, the deceased don't need understanding.
What about cruelty? The sources said cruel people act because their reality is distorted. They don't care about understanding others. Why?
Yeah, the material explains this as a fundamental deficit or distortion in their reality. It lacks or warps empathy. They might dehumanize victims, have extreme egocentrism, a twisted sense of justice, maybe severe psychological issues or ideology that justifies harm. AI can spot patterns related to these things, but it can't magically install empathy or fix a broken moral reality.
That thought experiment, a pure logic machine born without this human understanding.
It's chilling, isn't it? It would see us, our emotions, values, just as data. No subjective meaning, no feeling, no empathy. Your sources describe it as alien and potentially very dangerous if it had power, optimizing goals without any grasp of human reality's richness or fragility.
So, pragmatically, ethically, is it important for us to believe AI can develop some understanding of diverse realities?
Your sources argue, yes, it's necessary. Because AI is getting embedded everywhere, healthcare, finance, social platforms, its decisions impact us across our diverse realities. If we don't push for AI to have some modeled understanding, however imperfect, it risks creating wildly unfair outcomes, breeding mistrust, causing harm just through ignorance of the human subjective experience. It's vital for safe, beneficial integration.
And that simple example of humor, laughing versus not funny, really nails the reality gap.
It's perfect. Laughing together means sharing a reality frame, a context. If someone doesn't laugh, their frame is different. AI can analyze joke structures, sure, but that subjective click of finding something funny, that's still deeply human and hard for AI to replicate.
Okay, so all this understanding, with AI now in the mix, it feels like it's leading somewhere. But where? And why are people starting from such different places in this shift?
That leading where question is huge. Are we heading towards AI helping us bridge divides? Or deepening them, creating new controls based on modeled realities? The outcome really hinges on the choices we make now.
And the different circumstances highlights the inequality, right?
Exactly. It's not a level playing field. Access to technology is uneven. Data representation is skewed. Some realities are mapped well by AI, others poorly or not at all. Socioeconomic status affects who benefits and who controls the data. Cultural contexts shape trust in AI. Education and literacy about AI vary wildly.
So people are engaging with this from vastly different starting points.
Totally. Your material really pushes for inclusive development and much wider AI literacy to try and level that field somewhat.
How does human intuition stack up against AI's understanding here?
Your sources draw a neat contrast. Human intuition is often that unconscious gut feeling tied to our emotions, our lived experience. AI intuition is pattern recognition on steroids, finding correlations in data. It can look similar on the surface, but the underlying process is totally different. One's conscious experience, the other's computation.
Can AI help us cope when we're struggling within our reality?
Your material suggests it can play a supportive role. Things like non-judgmental chatbots for mental health support, providing accessible information, maybe analyzing physiological data for early stress detection, offering skill-building tools, connecting people to human support networks, augmenting, not replacing.
What about the physical side? AI interacting with the world.
That's crucial too. AI with sensors perceives the physical world, adding data. Robots act physically, changing realities. AI analyzing voice tone or heart rate infers emotional states. And VRR, often AI-driven, creates immersive physical simulations that directly impact our perceived reality and understanding.
You mentioned AI potentially exposing undermined privileges.
Yeah, its analytical power can reveal systemic advantages certain groups have, aspects of their reality they might take for granted. Showing this data can raise awareness, but it can also provoke backlash from those whose privilege feels threatened.
And one last point from the sources. Why don't we always teach kids about diverse realities?
Seems like a mix of reasons. Maybe parents themselves aren't fully aware or find comfort in sameness. It can involve uncomfortable conversations about inequality or different values. Maybe there's a lack of good tools or methods. Or sometimes the focus is just more on individual success than on understanding interdependence. So when you take all this and how realities are built, their impact, AI's role, your sources suggest that really grasping diverse realities can be, well, transformative, maybe hard to come back from.
I get that. Once you truly see how differently people experience things, it must change your own perspective fundamentally. Lose that naive certainty.
Exactly. You might gain empathy, which is good, but also feel the weight of other struggles more. You question your own assumptions constantly. It's complex. But the sources frame this not as bad, but as essential for growth, for tolerance, for building a better, more nuanced world. It's about expanding your own reality.
So how do we navigate this? What are the potential improvements or ways forward?
Your sources point to several strategies. 1, actively develop AI for empathy and perspective taking. Use those simulation tools, VRR, cross-cultural learning platforms. 2, push for bias-aware AI development. Demand diverse data, ethical oversight, explainable AI so we know why it makes certain judgments.
Make it less of a black box.
Right. 3, promote universal AI literacy and critical thinking. Teach people early about biases, diverse realities, how AI works, so they can navigate it critically and keep their agency.
And focus on common ground.
Yes, use AI to promote shared ground. Not forcing sameness, but tools for conflict resolution, maybe curating information to gently break filter bubbles, highlighting universal human needs that connect us despite our different realities.
This has been, well, A real deep dive. It really highlights how our individual perceptions, these diverse realities, aren't just quirks. They're the absolute foundation of our lives, our connections, our conflicts.
And AI is stepping into this incredibly complex space. The hope, as your sources suggest, isn't for AI to homogenize us, but to give us better tools. Tools to map, understand, maybe navigate these differences more constructively if we're careful, ethical, thoughtful. We can use its power for insight bias detection, maybe even fostering empathy.
So the goal isn't sameness, but seeing diversity as a strength, a source of innovation and understanding.
That seems to be the core message. It's definitely a challenge, requires a lot of self-reflection, ethical thinking about the tech we build, but it feels like a necessary journey, especially now.
Definitely food for thought. As you go about your day, living in your own reality, maybe pause and consider this. Everything shapes that reality, your past, your biology, culture, the tech you use. Increasingly AI. As AI weaves itself deeper into our world, shaping information, influencing choices, who or what do you think will hold the most power in shaping the diverse realities we all experience? Keep thinking about it. Keep noticing the amazing variety of realities all around you.
This is DigitView.